Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we're taking a look at more of the new Star Trek action figures by Playmates. And this time around, it's going to be the 3 figures that are part of the classic series in this wave. So in other words, we're taking a look at the Wrath of Khan versions of Captain Kirk, Spock, and of course, Khan! Yeah, well, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but it's Khan. We have Khan here too. It's Khan. As regular fans of this channel know, I am a pretty huge Star Trek fan here, between all the Star Trek action figure reviews here, as well as the Trek Untold podcast that I do where I interview folks who have been in Star Trek shows on screen or behind the camera. And I was super excited when Playmates announced that they were coming back to do more Star Trek figures after quite a long hiatus from the license. Fairly recently, I took a look at their 2 Discovery action figures from this new lineup, which was of course of Michael Burnham and Saru. And I was accused of being a little overly critical in that review, and I won't disagree, but I will disagree, because I think there were some points I made that were pretty fair, but I will make an amendment right now in this beginning of this review here, because that's going to affect, I think, how things go. So when I did those reviews of the Michael Burnham and Saru figures, I said that the price point was $20, because I thought it was at the time $20. I saw pre-orders for these at certain places, and it was like $18, $19. Turns out actual price is indeed supposed to be closer to $12, and that's what these things are going to be shown up for in stores. I think it's going to be more accurately like a $12.99 price point. So I will keep in mind that as I talk about these figures, because yeah, as a $20 figure, no, definitely not worth it. But as a $12 figure, I will amend my previous review a little bit and say that yeah, $12 I think it's a pretty good value, and I think even more so when we're going to be talking about some of these figures. So let's just go ahead now and start diving into this review here, and the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is the packaging. And I think the packaging on these retro figures especially is really, really cool. I was not a fan of the Discovery packaging. They were kind of bland. They're actually extremely bland. But these classic Trek figures, these are perfect. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And for the sake of comparison, by the way, here is another figure that was in that original Playmates line from their classic Trek sub-series. So you guys can see there are a lot of similarities, a few differences, but for the most part, pretty similar style packaging. What you'll notice is that the original version here, it's a lot bigger than what we have now with these modern figures. That's not a bad thing. They're more shelf space friendly, I guess. You know, that's kind of just how things are today. But the look is pretty darn close, and I'm pretty happy about that. I mean, even down to the logo, even to the text that's on the side of the figure. I mean, there's the difference here where we have that little anniversary logo, but other than that, pretty darn close. And even more so when I actually flip these things around. Yeah, no, I'm still pretty impressed. Like, this is actually pretty darn close. Yeah, I'm gonna say that a lot, I feel like, because this really does harken back to those original Playmates figures. Not just harken, this is like straight up inspiration, homage. You know, it's not an exact copy, but it's there, and it gets me that good toy feeling that I want to get when I talk about these toys. One of the things that I complained about with the Discovery figures was how there was no bio information. It was, like I said earlier, very bland, very disappointing. But this time around, you guys can see the side-by-side comparison. You know, we're getting the little glimpse of what the accessories are in the figures. We're getting a look at the other figures in the line, even though on the case of the new figure, they're not actually photos of the toys, it's just, you know, photos of the actual actors. But still, it lets us know who else to collect in this series, and we do get a bio, which that excites me to no end. I love bios and action figures. Sure, we already know the information about the guys, but just cool to see it there and just to have it. And yeah, we have it here. It is just like the originals here, where it's going to be like the kind of thing you cut and collect. So again, not an exact one-to-one replica of the information that we're getting here, but it's there, and that's what matters, because that's kind of the extra TLC I wanted to see with these toys. So without further ado, let's go ahead now and beam our figures out of the packaging and take a closer look at them from all angles. All right, and here are our Wrath of Khan figures out of the packaging. So we have from left to right, we have Khan himself right over here. We have Captain Kirk right over here, and we have Spock right over here. So lots to talk about, lots to dig into. Let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is the likenesses, and do these look like the actors who played the part? Well, that's where things get complicated right off the bat. I hate to say it. So in my personal opinion of these 3 figures, Khan is easily the best likeness of everybody. This looks like Ricardo Montalban. I mean, it might even look better than the original version from this that Playmates did back in the day. We'll do a comparison later on. But that Ricardo Montalban look is just perfect. They nailed it from every angle. You cannot say it doesn't look like him. It is undisputed. Now, Captain Kirk, William Shatner, that's pretty good too. It's a little soft, and I did say, you know, in the previous video with Michael Burnham and Saru, that their likenesses were a little bit soft too. I think that this one looks a lot better than I thought it was going to look, to be honest. You know, like when I first saw that Captain Kirk in the packaging, I was not that impressed, admittedly. But now seeing him here in front of me, out of the box, loose, you know what? It actually does look close enough to him. It looks pretty good. Like, it's not a perfect likeness. It's not nearly as good as Khan. but it's pretty solid. I think it's pretty strong. Not my favorite, not the worst, definitely better than the Burnham and Saru. So if I was going to give this like a grade, you know, maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. I like it. Now Spock is I don't know the word in Vulcan for hot garbage. This is a bad sculpt. This is just not good. None of this says Leonard Nimoy to me. This looks like a cosplayer who I saw at Comic-Con last year. Nothing about it is right. The nose is not quite right. I mean, this is looking at it from head on, but if we turn him even to like the side, I mean, the profile is as good as we get with the Spock likeness, but this just doesn't say Leonard Nimoy to me at all. There's nothing about this that says Leonard Nimoy. Nothing. No, just everything is off about it. It's not there. I don't know if that's a likeness issue, that maybe they didn't get the rights from the Nimoy family, but I doubt that would be the case. So I don't know what's up with it. It just doesn't look good. I do not like it. Now let's talk about some of the bodies as well. So I'm just talking likeness and sculpt here. Let's talk about the bodies. And what's really cool about all three of these is they all have unique sculpts. Obviously Khan has to have a unique sculpt because he's in his weird augment outfit, which by the way is tremendously done. Like, this is excellent. There's again, you know, talk about the likeness, but man, even the outfit, this is great. Outstanding paint job, all the little details in here. Like, this is 10 out of 10. This Khan is just perfect. Kirk, also pretty good. You know, I like that they gave him a little bit of a punch. He's got a little bit of a tummy there. And the colors are looking good. This is the Monster Maroon outfits. Everything about it looks pretty good. I like the way this looks. Spock, again, though, here, you know, it's okay. So here's the thing, all right? This is gonna be me nitpicking a little bit. It looks good. It looks pretty solid. It looks the way it's supposed to look. Anybody out there who's like a real costume aficionado can let us know in the comments if anything is off, you know, in terms of insignias or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure they got all that right. What irks me the most about this, though, is if we take a look at their badges, you'll notice one badge is bigger than the other, and that's Kirk's. His looks like it's double the size of Spock's. I don't know why that is. Why would their badges be different sizes? That's just a weird thing, and that's just a mistake they made, I guess. I don't quite know what happened here, but their badges are the wrong size. Yeah, I'm gonna nitpick that, because it is noticeable. I think, you know, I will say that yes, it's a nitpick, but it's also not, because you can kind of clearly see they're different sizes. I'm not gonna like detract major points for it, it's just very noticeable. What bugs me more is the faces. But, you know, if we take a look also at their boots, I mean, you know, Starfleet issue boots, those look good, no qualms for me there. Likewise, Khan's little augment tootsies, they're looking quite nice in those too. So, you know, outfits overall pretty good. I'm liking the head sculpts overall, mostly, with the exception of one. But let's take a look at their backs real quick also, because that's worth mentioning. And I mentioned this in the Saru and Michael Burnham review also, and it's pretty much apparent what you'll notice as soon as I turn them all over. All of the copyright information is dead center on their backs. That is kind of hideous. It's kind of egregious. And it's a lot of information. I mean, it's not like the old days where you could put it on their feet. This is like a full-on address, practically. There's a lot of information here. I mean, to be fair, they kind of hit it a little bit nicer in Cons. I like how they integrated it into the outfit. It still is noticeable. I don't like it. You know, and granted, for the most part, you're not going to have their backs ever really turned. But it's just kind of not great. There's no way around it. It's just so noticeable. You know, actually, since I haven't turned around here, let's talk about the back of their hairs too. Because, yeah, I do want to mention on the subject of hair and likeness, hairs are all looking really good, especially from behind. I think, like, again, Khan's hair is great. Kirk's hair, just as good as, you know, actually better than I was expecting. Spock's hair looks good too. From behind, this looks like Leonard Nimoy. It's just as soon as you turn him around, that's when things kind of go not so good, not so good. But, all right, overall pretty good though. Now let's talk articulation as well, and just to make this easier, I'm gonna move Spock and Khan out of the way, I guess, temporarily. So the nice thing about these modern Playmate Star Trek figures is that the articulation has also been modernized. We have a lot more points of articulation, or at least different ones. We're missing a few, but overall, you know, there's some trade-offs. So first things, we do have very nice head, moves left and right, and it is ball jointed, so you can get some decent range of mobility here. We have ball jointed shoulders now, which is nice. We have ball jointed elbows. This one is very stiff out the box. There we go, but it's there. We have the wrists that can move also, and they can bend and, let's see, they can rotate. They can't actually flex in or out, but they can rotate, so you've got that. The waists do not move. There is no joint for the waists. We do get ball-jointed legs, and this is something I was actually curious about, was like how good the articulation is with these tunics. It's not bad. You know, you can't really get any high kicks at all, but not like Kirk will be doing any. I mean, the most he's going to do is a Kirk drop kick, so that's fine. We have a ball-jointed, single ball joint for the knee, and looks like the feet, yes, are also ball jointed. So, you know, pretty good articulation. Overall, not so bad. But like I said, there are some trade-offs. I mean, I do miss that the waists don't move anymore. That seems to be a more common thing with this price point of figures now, is that they're getting rid of waist articulation. So it's kind of just a trade-off here. Now let's talk accessories, since, we just kind of sneaked one in here. So, or snuck is the proper English word, but, who am I to be picky? So we have the first accessory here for Captain Kirk, and they all come with a lot of accessories. I'm going to say that up front. They did a much better job on these than they did with the Discovery figures. So everybody gets bases, but the bases are all identical. And those identical bases are just the Starfleet insignia. In the old days, we had bases that had names on them and stickers and multicolors. We just get this one type of base for everyone across all the different franchises. And there's little holes in the bottom of the feet here, which make them very easy to attach to. And yes, every figure in this review has been on their base the entire time. Do they stand up on their own without it? Yeah, more or less, but it's easier for the sake of this video just to have everybody on their bases and make sure that no one falls over. So in addition to the base, Kirk gets his Type 2 phaser, which is right here. Good detail, very nice sculpting detail in this phaser. I'm digging this a lot. So yeah, we have a phaser, put that right there. We also get the captain's log. This will be his little pad device. I guess I didn't call it a pad at this point, but it's a little writing device. So just a nice little thin piece of plastic. You can put that there also. And then the last piece we have is a Starfleet wrist communicator. Now, this I'm not so sure about. And while it does look very nice, no denying that, it's a good looking sculpt job. I don't remember if they actually used this in the movie or not. I feel like in 2, they were back to using the flip ones. I'm not positive though. So if anybody out there wants to let me know or correct me or just let me know if I'm on the right track here, feel free to mention in the comments whether or not this was actually used. And speaking of here, this has this nice little bit here, so you can actually just attach it directly onto his wrist, and that was easy. Okay, it just goes right on in there. So that's great. And let's just put the phaser in his hand as well, just to make sure he can hold it. He does have a trigger finger for it, so logically he should be able to hold it, and yes. So there we go, that's our Kirk all decked out, ready for an away team mission with his phaser. Perfect fit in his hands. Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely digging the fact that all these guys have more accessories, but let's move on and let's talk about Spock. Now, while it's not an accessory, I'm going to count it. Spock has his live long and prosper hand, and it's really cool that they put it in there. The one downside of it being there is that, well, you can only really hold accessories in one hand, but they did kind of make something to be a workaround, if you will. So Spock has this nifty little engineering tool, which is, again, very nice sculpt. Cool choice of an accessory. Nice little engineering tool right there. Looks like a Polaroid camera from that angle. We get a Starfleet tricorder. Here we go, another nice sculpt. I gotta say the accessories here are much nicer than what I got in Disco. Like, I can understand why people thought I was being a little harsh on the Discovery figures, because really compared to what we're looking at here, it's night and day. And so the other 2 accessories you get, which I'm very curious how they're going to work, is we have a pair of radiation gloves. This is also kind of a depressing accessory because this is like how you can reenact the finale of the film, and that's kind of grim. But yeah, let's see how this works, because I've seen photos of these things in action. They look like giant Mickey Mouse gloves, and I was wondering how they actually worked. I feel like I've heard people talk about getting the hand off. I'm a little afraid to do that, but there we go. Okay, yeah, so you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it, but I'm sure it definitely helps to do that. And the other hand that should go on also. All right. So that's not horrible, as long as you don't mind Who Framed Roger Rabbit in your Star Trek universe. They are definitely a little goofy looking, but to be quite fair, they were also pretty huge in the films. So it kind of is what it is. I mean, it is really nicely done. Good paint job. It is 2 paints, and that's like the only accessory we've seen in this entire wave that has 2-tone paint. So you know what? I'm going to give it to them because it is a unique accessory, and they never did Spock in this outfit in the original Playmates line. I think Art Asylum did much later in their 7-inch figures, and I think they may have had another set of hands with those gloves on, but as far as the Playmates and this size go, first time we're getting this. So it's a little grim, but you know what? It's actually kind of cool. Now let's move on to our last figure, and that's Khan himself. So aside from the outrageously great details on his outfit with the sculpt and everything else, we get 4 accessories with Khan, including that base. So we got some biggies here, and these are some really cool ones. So Khan comes with a Type 2 phaser. We've already seen this with our Kirk, but there it is. There's our Starfleet phaser. So you've already seen it. You know how much I like it. We're going to put that down. One of the really cool things he comes with, though, is right here. This is the Genesis control box. So we got this with the original Khan figure. We'll do a comparison in a few moments. But we get it again here, and it's nice. It looks really good. It's a very solid accessory. We're just going to pop this one over here, because you can't keep it too far from Khan. He's going to need that. But personally, the best accessory we get here, bar none, is this. We have the bowl of SETI eels, as well as a little guy here to hold them up. So we're getting eels. We're getting the eel prod. This is horrific, but brilliant accessory. And you know, if you guys check my video of the original Playmates figure, mine didn't actually come with the little prod here. So I'm very happy to note that I finally have it and I could feed all my buddies those SETI eels. So let's do some figure comparisons right now. And since we have Khan out here, I guess logically we have to do Khan. And just as a point of reference, they did make a Kirk in this outfit, but it was him from Generations. So it's an older version of Kirk. It might be skewing my review of him a little bit too, in fact, because it's the only version of him I saw. And in that, we also got Scotty and Chekhov in those outfits because they were in the movie. We never got Spock because he wasn't in Generations. So unfortunately, I don't have the Kirk with me, and we're not going to compare it to him. But again, it really wouldn't be fair because that movie was like, 15, 20 years later, maybe something like that. So just going to mention that. But here we go. Let's talk about Khan. And there he is, and he's not on his base. So that's why he's looking a little bit shorter here. And I'm not doing that either because he was from the movie line, and those movie figures had much larger bases than what we typically got. So this would make him have quite a bit of a height difference compared to the Khan next to him. So let's see, let's just make this easier. I will take off the base so we can do an actual legitimate side-by-side comparison here. So, I have to tell you guys, the original Khan is one of my favorites in the entire line of action figures. And I guess it makes sense that this other Khan here is going to be my favorite so far too, because they did an outstanding job on both of them. Colors are different, but the detail is still really great on both of them. The ones from the 90s you could almost call primitive in some ways compared to the type of paint we're getting here and the type of sculpting that they're doing now that we're not seeing like in Khan's arm, for example. And the fact is we do have a lot more articulation over here than we do with this older one. But, for my money, it's hard to say which one I like more because I still like the personality that those classic Playmates figures have. Like, they're chunkier figures. You can tell there's like a real size difference here. I always like that extra width, and it does add to, the feeling of it being a toy. I like that. I've always liked that personality that these toys had. But, as far as realism goes, this Khan is much better. Now, I don't know if I could say the same for the other Star Trek toys we looked at, because it is kind of hit or miss. It changes really every time, but as far as Khan goes side by side, to be honest, they're both perfect. So there's not really one better than the other. I do want to move him out of the way for a second, though, so we can compare phasers also, because both of these Khans came with phasers. They're not the same sculpt, but they're nearly identical. There's actually almost a few more details in this older version, but they're still fairly close. That's not worth comparing. Now, what is fun is I can confirm the bowl of SETI eels are identical. They are the exact same sculpt. So I would imagine that that prod is the same as well, but I am really curious now to see, because I'm pretty sure they are different. Let's just see. The Genesis control boxes, are they the same? They are the same. Wow, they're pretty much the same thing. I feel like they maybe clean things up on the newer one here on the left, and the difference is the one on the right has stickers. This one that's new does not have the stickers, but otherwise nearly identical. Wow, was not expecting that. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and do a final look at all three of these guys together, and I'll give you guys my last thoughts. So I am happy to report that I like these Wrath of Khan figures so much more than the Discovery ones. It really seems like almost imbalanced and unfair that Disco kind of got the short end of the stick here. But, we're talking now $12, $13 figures with a lot of accessories, good articulation, mostly good likenesses. I mean, you got one killer likeness, one pretty good, great likeness, and then Spock. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with these. I'm actually way happier with these than I was with the Discovery. So I feel a lot better now telling folks go out and get these because, we never got Spock in this style in the Playmates line. Technically, we didn't really get a Kirk that style either. We got the Kirk from Generations. So now you can actually get them. They can intermingle. They fit in fairly well in terms of size with those older figures. Best of all, I have heard now, and hopefully we'll get some confirmation if I get an interview with some folks from Playmates, they are planning on doing playsets. So there's no reason in my mind that we wouldn't get an engineering playset like you see behind us right now, which this is the old TNG one, but there's no doubt in my mind we could probably get a Wrath of Khan one, and then we could reenact everybody's favorite tragic scene. Hooray! But again, these are great. These are some of my favorites, and yeah, I can definitely recommend these to all Trekkies out there. These are going to really fill that void in your collection. Got some real solid accessories. This is definitely the modern upgrade that I was hoping for, and I'm so happy that I can now confirm that we're getting it from Playmates. I was so worried about that. But yeah, no, these definitely have alleviated a lot of my feelings about these toys. Now, if you want to pick these up for yourself, why not use our Amazon affiliate links, which you can find in the description below. Using those links helps out this YouTube channel a great deal and costs you nothing extra. So pick up these Playmate Star Trek figures and more using those affiliate links below. So that's our look at the Wrath of Khan 3-figure set from the very first wave of Playmates revival of the Star Trek action figure line. I give them 2 live long and prospers up. This from here looks like gang signs, but take my word for it. I'm doing the thing. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. And until next time, live long and buy toys.